afternoon.
Step your hands where I can see them. What are you doing parked out here?
I'm on a call.
Let me see some ID.
Sure.
Marcus Gray, local address. All right.
Is there a problem?
Picture this for a second. You're driving home after a long day at work. Nothing dramatic, nothing stressful, just that quiet evening feeling when you're ready to change clothes, eat something simple, and finally breathe. Then suddenly, blue lights flash in your rearview mirror. You roll the window down. You do everything right, and still, the officer walking up to your car isn't calm, isn't respectful, and isn't looking for the truth. What he doesn't know is that the black man he just pulled over, the man he's about to talk down to, intimidate, and illegally search, is actually his brand new boss, and that officer is 20 minutes away from ruining his entire career. Before we get deeper into it, let me ask you, have you ever felt that moment of confusion when an officer pulls you over and you know you did nothing wrong? Let me know, because tonight's story starts exactly there, on a quiet street where one officer's bias lit the fuse without even realizing who he was speaking to. Marcus Reed was only 10 minutes from home when the patrol car behind him suddenly lit up. Blue and red flashed across his rearview mirror, scattering across the street like broken reflections. He slowed down immediately, signaled, and pulled over to the right curb. His movements were steady, practiced. The kind of careful calmness every black driver learns not from a manual, but from experience. Marcus Reed knew for a fact he hadn't done a single thing wrong. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't drifting. He wasn't distracted. Marcus put the car in park, turned off the engine, rolled the window down, and placed both hands where the officer could clearly see them. His work ID badge still hung from his belt, but from the angle of the headlights, you couldn't read the name or title. Officer Trent Wallace approached with the swagger of someone already irritated before the conversation even started. Hand on his belt, jaw tight, flashlight pointed straight into Marcus's eyes. "License and registration," Wallace barked. No greeting, no explanation. Marcus kept his voice level, even though annoyance was simmering underneath. "I'm reaching into my pocket for my wallet," he said, then to the glove compartment. "Just hurry up," Wallace snapped. Marcus moved slowly anyway. He handed over the documents. Wallace barely glanced at them before asking, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Marcus felt the irritation spike. There it was. The question black people get even when doing absolutely nothing wrong. "I'm heading home from work," Marcus said. "You live around here?" Wallace said, like the idea was suspicious. "Yes, 3 blocks down." Wallace's eyebrows lifted in doubt. "Uh-huh." "You know why I stopped you?" Wallace asked, with that smug tone that said the answer didn't matter. "No," Marcus said plainly. "I wasn't doing anything wrong." "You touched the lane line when you turned in," Wallace said. "Improper lane usage." Marcus stared at him for a moment. He knew that wasn't true, not even close. But arguing on the street only ever made things worse. "Okay," Marcus said, though he clearly didn't agree. Wallace tapped the documents on his fingers, staring at Marcus like he was waiting for him to slip up. Then suddenly, "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus closed his eyes for half a second. "Seriously? Over this?" "Is there a reason?" he asked. "Yeah, I don't like your attitude." "Step out," Wallace said. Marcus bit down the frustration. He unbuckled. "I'm stepping out." He stood outside the car, hands visible, but his expression absolutely showed he was bothered now. He wasn't scared, he was tired. Tired of having to prove he wasn't a threat when he literally hadn't done anything. "Hands on the roof," Wallace demanded. Wallace patted him down aggressively. "No weapons?" the officer asked. Marcus answered tightly. "No." "You sure?" Wallace pressed. "Yes," Marcus said, clipped and done with the game. Wallace stepped back and circled him like he was looking for an excuse. "So, you're saying you live around here?" "Yes," Marcus repeated. "You sure about that?" Marcus finally turned his head just enough to meet his eyes. "Yes, officer, I'm sure." That bothered Wallace. Marcus could see the shift. The officer didn't like someone staying calm, but clearly unimpressed. You got anything illegal in the vehicle? No. I'm going to take a look. Marcus's frustration sharpened. Officer, he said clearly, I do not consent to a search. Wallace smirked like he'd been waiting on that line to justify whatever he wanted. Yeah, well, your behavior gives me suspicion. Don't move. Marcus almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because he couldn't believe he was standing on the side of the road, being treated like a suspect, when the only thing he did was drive home. He watched Wallace tear through his car without permission. The back seat, the glove box, under the seats. Nothing. Not a single thing. Wallace slammed the door hard. You stay right there, he barked. Marcus didn't move. Inside the car, Wallace typed like he was determined to find dirt where there was none. Kept glancing up at Marcus like he expected him to magically become guilty of something. When Officer Wallace finally stepped out of his patrol car, he had a stack of papers in his hand and the same irritated expression he'd worn since the moment he approached the window. He walked up to Marcus like he was delivering bad news on purpose. Turn around, Wallace said. Marcus faced him, annoyed but composed. Wallace shoved 3 citations forward. Improper lane usage. Failure to comply. Obstruction, he announced like he was reading a grocery list. Marcus stared at the tickets. He couldn't help it. His eyebrows lifted. Officer, I complied with every... Don't start, Wallace cut in. Marcus held his tongue for a moment, trying to process the absurdity. I've followed every instruction you gave me, Marcus said calmly, but with an edge. I didn't interfere with anything. And I did clearly tell you I didn't consent to a search. That's exactly why I'm writing one of these tickets, Wallace snapped. You want to fight it? Fight it in court. Marcus inhaled slowly. This doesn't reflect the interaction accurately. Wallace leaned in slightly, lowering his voice, like he was offering advice he didn't mean. Yeah, here's another piece of advice, he said quietly. Stop acting like you know better. People get hurt that way. That line hit Marcus wrong. He didn't let it show on his face. He just looked back at Wallace, steady and unimpressed. Are we done here? Marcus asked. You're free to go, Wallace said, waving him off like a nuisance. Next time, try being cooperative. Marcus held back the response he wanted to give and instead answered simply, I was cooperative. Sure you were, Wallace muttered, already walking away. Marcus got back in his car, closed the door, and sat for a moment. He had done everything right, and still ended up with 3 false citations and an officer implying he was a threat. He started the engine and pulled away slowly, watching the patrol car fade in his mirror. When he pulled into his driveway, Marcus didn't go inside immediately. He took his phone out and opened his notes app. He noted everything that just happened. Marcus knew that he wouldn't let it slide. As a new deputy director, he wanted to keep order and justice. He texted one person, Chief Navarro, head of police department, where Officer Wallace worked. He told her the whole situation, and she agreed to deal with it. Navarro decided Officer Wallace will be reported to Internal Affairs. His body cam, dash cam, and incident logs from last night will be reviewed. He will be relieved of duty effective, now pending investigation. Internal Affairs worked quickly. They pulled the dash cam footage. They reviewed the body cam audio. They compared Wallace's written report with the video. Investigators dug into his history. 12 prior complaints, nearly all involving black people, almost all showing minor escalations with no real cause. This time, there was no room for interpretation. Wallace was fired. Permanent termination. Decertification recommended. But Marcus wasn't done. What happened to him wasn't simply a bad stop. It was a civil rights violation. He contacted attorney Jasmine Holt, a civil rights lawyer known for being calm, strategic, and relentless. They filed the lawsuit. Claims included illegal stop, illegal search, civil rights violation, retaliatory citations, negligent supervision against the city. The city attorney tried to settle quietly early on, but Jasmine refused lowball offers. Marcus wasn't doing this for quick money. He was doing it for the principle. The judge reviewed everything. After weeks of arguments, filings, and hearings, the decision came down. The stop was unlawful. The search violated the Fourth Amendment. The citations were retaliatory and baseless. Marcus's civil rights were violated. Damages awarded, $200,000. And because court rulings are public record, the story didn't stay quiet. Local journalists picked it up. Regional outlets picked it up. Soon, people across the state were reading the headline. City pays $200K after deputy director targeted in traffic stop by fired officer. For Trent Wallace, the downfall was immediate and unforgiving. Once the ruling became public, his name started appearing everywhere a simple search bar could reach. He tried applying to nearby police departments. One by one, they rejected him. Some told him directly, "We can't consider candidates with a civil rights judgment." Others just never called back. His termination, combined with the lawsuit, combined with the decertification filing, destroyed his chances of wearing a badge again. People recognized his name, not in a celebrity way, in the way you recognize someone who made the news for all the wrong reasons. At grocery stores, at gas stations, at a bar once when someone muttered, "That's the guy from the traffic stop." It ate at him. He had never imagined that one routine stop, something he'd done dozens of times, would come back and define him. Wallace was still personally liable for a portion of the judgment. That alone pushed him into debt he didn't know how to climb out of. And Marcus? He didn't gloat, didn't parade the judgment around, didn't go on TV for interviews. Because for Marcus, the downfall wasn't the point. The point was the system and the people in it, learning something they couldn't ignore anymore. The moment Wallace pulled him over that night, he thought he was dealing with another routine stop. But the consequences showed what happens when routine misconduct finally meets. But here's the important part. Accountability doesn't need an audience. It just needs someone who refuses to let the moment disappear. Marcus refused. And because he refused, a broken pattern was stopped. A dangerous officer was removed. A department was forced to improve, and a community learned the truth. Before we wrap this up completely, let me leave you with a question. The same kind Marcus now asks every officer in training. If this happened to someone without power, would anyone have believed them? Wherever you're watching from, I hope this story made you think. And I hope it reminded you that justice isn't always loud, but it can be real.